You are too old, Mom.
He said it so casually, like it didn't carry the weight of a blade. You're too old to understand, Mom. The words hung in the kitchen air, cutting through the hum of the refrigerator. I didn't respond right away. I just kept wiping the counter, though my hands had stopped moving a while ago. Tyler didn't look up from his phone, his face lit by that cold, blue light that made him seem like a stranger in his own home. He was 17, brilliant, sarcastic, independent, all the things I'd once prayed he'd be. But somewhere between childhood and manhood, he'd built a wall I couldn't climb. Too old, I repeated quietly. All right. He rolled his eyes. Mom, it's just things are different now. You wouldn't get it. He left the room, and the silence that followed felt heavier than the words themselves. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, scrolling through his old photos. Messy hair, missing teeth, his small hand clutching mine at the fair. I wanted to believe that boy was still somewhere in him. The next morning, I heard voices in the driveway. Tyler and someone older, a man. Their tones were sharp, hushed, like they were hiding something. I cracked the window open. Just keep quiet, the man said. I told you, she doesn't know anything, Tyler whispered back. My stomach dropped. That evening, I acted normal, dinner on the table, the same grace before meals. But he didn't eat much. His knee bounced under the table. I noticed the smell of cigarette smoke on his jacket, not the cheap kind from schoolboys sneaking behind the gym, but something heavier, industrial. Tyler, I said gently, who are you talking to this morning? He froze. The fork in his hand clinked against the plate. Just a friend. What kind of friend asks you to keep secrets from your mother? He pushed back his chair, eyes cold. The kind that actually listens to me. He stormed out. I waited until I heard the front door slam, then went to his room. He'd left his laptop open. Notifications popped up from a group chat. Names I didn't recognize. Messages scrolled fast. Drop location, payment confirmed, delivery tomorrow. My heart pounded. I clicked the folder labeled School Project. Inside were scanned IDs. Dozens. Not his. Not mine. When the front door creaked open an hour later, I pretended to be asleep. But sleep wouldn't come. I kept replaying his words. You're too old to understand. Maybe he was right. Maybe I didn't understand the world he lived in now. But what I did understand was instinct, a mother's kind. The next morning, I followed him. Quietly. His steps were quick, anxious, leading toward the industrial park on the edge of town. He met the same man again. I stayed behind a row of rusted cars. The man handed him a black duffel bag. Tyler looked around, nervous. This is the last time, he said. The man smirked. That's what they all say. Something inside me cracked. My son, my boy, was into something dark. And if I didn't act fast, I could lose him to it completely. When he got home that night, I was waiting at the kitchen table. His bag sat in front of me, open. The color drained from his face. Mom, what did you do? I opened it, I said. Now you tell me the truth. Inside were dozens of forged credit cards and IDs. He sank into the chair, face pale, eyes wide with fear. It's not what it looks like. Then tell me what it is. Silence. Then a whisper. I didn't have a choice. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But before I could speak, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have stayed out of it. For a moment, neither of us breathed. And that's when I realized the person who just threatened me wasn't the man from the lot. It came from Tyler's own phone. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. Tyler didn't move. He just stared at it like it wasn't real. Like maybe if he stayed still enough, the truth wouldn't land. Who sent that? I asked quietly. He swallowed. His voice cracked. Mom. I swear, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Who sent that? He stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. It's not what you think. I took a step toward him. Then explain it to me before I call the police. He flinched like the word police burned. His breathing quickened. You can't. They'll come after you too. Them? Who's them, Tyler? He pressed his palms to his head. It's complicated, Mom. I was just supposed to move the money, okay? It wasn't supposed to touch your account. I thought she. I interrupted. Who's she? He hesitated. His lips trembled before the name fell out. Amber. That name meant nothing to me, but it meant everything to him. I saw it in the way his voice softened when he said it. She said it was just a way to make extra cash, he continued. She told me she'd handle everything. I didn't know it was illegal until. He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I saw fear, not arrogance. Until she said she'd tell her people where you work if I stopped. The room went cold. I sat down slowly, my hands trembling. The phone was still on the floor, screen glowing with that one sentence. You should have stayed out of it. I picked it up. No profile picture, just a number. I typed back, who is this? Delivered. No reply. Tyler sat down across from me, shoulders hunched like a child. I was trying to protect you. I laughed bitterly. By stealing from me? He looked away. She said if I didn't get the money, he stopped. I thought I could fix it before you noticed. The quiet between us stretched thin, filled with everything we hadn't said for months. You know, I whispered, I would have helped you, no matter what it was. His voice broke. You don't understand, Mom. They don't just ask for money. They take it. I wanted to reach across the table, to hold him like I used to when nightmares woke him. But the nightmare wasn't outside this time. It was sitting right in front of me. The house suddenly felt too small, too exposed. Every creak in the hallway made me tense. Every vibration of the phone made my pulse jump. Then another text. Same number. Check your front door. I froze. Tyler's face drained of color. We turned at the same time as 3 slow knocks echoed through the house. I stood up. My heart was pounding, so hard it felt like thunder in my chest. Don't, Tyler whispered. Don't open it. But I already was. The porch light flickered, and for a second I saw it, an envelope, plain white, no name. Inside was a single photo, me and Tyler, taken through the kitchen window, and scrawled across it in red ink were 4 words that made my knees weaken. Too late to stop. I held the photo under the kitchen light. My reflection shimmered faintly on its glossy surface, me, frozen mid-laugh, pouring coffee. Through the window, someone had been watching us. Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. Mom, what do we do? I didn't answer right away. My mind wasn't racing, it was organizing. Shock gave way to something sharper. Controlled. Focused. We start by staying calm, I said. And we stop waiting for whoever this is to make the next move. I grabbed a plastic bag from the drawer and sealed the photo inside. This goes nowhere near the trash. It's evidence. He stared at me wide-eyed. You sound like you've done this before. I've lived long enough to know when someone's testing how far they can push. His phone buzzed. He jumped. Another message. This one wasn't from the unknown number. It was from Amber. Amber, you told her? Amber, big mistake, Tyler. Amber, you better fix it before tomorrow. He looked at me helplessly. She knows we're together. How does she know that? I walked to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to see the street. A black car was idling 2 houses down, engine running, lights off. I want her number, I said. Tyler hesitated, then handed me his phone. I copied it, saved it, and pulled up a search. No social media, no traceable info, just encrypted apps and one public listing that led to a fake modeling profile. Amber isn't her name, I muttered. It's a mask. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe he didn't. I didn't recognize myself either, not the version of me that used to cry first and think later. That version was gone the moment I saw that photo. I sat down, opened my laptop, and started searching deeper. Phone lookup tools, reverse image engines. I uploaded the screenshot of her face from Tyler's call history. The wheel spun for what felt like forever. Then it stopped. One match. The photo belonged to another woman entirely, a missing person from 3 years ago. Tyler, I said slowly, the woman you've been talking to isn't real. He blinked. What do you mean, not real? She's a digital mask. Someone's been pretending to be her, maybe using her images, her voice. You were never talking to Amber. He sank into the chair, pale as paper. Then who was it? The answer came seconds later, not from me, but from another text. Unknown number. Nice try, Karen. I froze. My full name. Not Mom. Not Ma'am. Not Lady. They knew me. My fingers tightened around the phone. We're going to the police, I said. Tyler shook his head, terrified. No, you don't understand, Mom. If we do, they'll... The power cut off. The house fell into darkness. We both turned toward the window. The black car was gone, but in the reflection of the glass, I could see something behind me. A shadow, moving. Mom, Tyler whispered, his voice trembling. I see it, I said quietly. And in that moment, I knew, whoever Amber was, she wasn't done yet. But neither was I. The lights flickered back to life a few seconds later, but something had shifted. The air felt heavy, charged. Tyler was still staring at the window, his hands trembling. Go to your room, I said quietly. He hesitated, but... Now. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight he didn't question. When his door closed, I went to the kitchen, grabbed the old cordless phone, the one not connected to Wi-Fi. Then I opened the drawer where I'd kept my late husband's things. His police badge, old contacts list, and one scratched-up USB drive. He had been a cybersecurity consultant before he passed. He used to tell me, Karen, every signal leaves a trail. You just have to know where to look. I plugged the USB into my laptop. It still worked. A simple script, an IP trace tool he'd written years ago. Primitive, but enough. I reconnected Tyler's phone to my laptop and rerouted the latest message, the one that called me by name. The screen flashed once, twice. Then a location blinked into view. 2 miles away. I didn't feel fear, just purpose. I texted a number I hadn't used in years. Mike, it's Karen. I need a favor. Quietly. Mike was one of my husband's old colleagues, retired now, but still owed me for keeping his name out of a scandal years back. He replied instantly, send address. I'm on my way. I shut the laptop, checked the locks again, then opened the garage door. My car was there, untouched. I slid into the driver's seat and waited until I saw headlights pull up down the block. Mike stepped out, older, slower, but alert. What's this about? He asked. Someone's been targeting my son, pretending to be a girl online. We've been watched, hacked, maybe both. He frowned. You report it? I shook my head. Not yet. I want proof first. We drove toward the pinged location, an abandoned duplex near the old train yard. From the outside, it looked empty. But as we got closer, I saw a faint blue glow through the window, like the reflection of a computer screen. Mike parked the car a few houses away. You sure about this? No, I said, but I'm done being afraid. We moved closer. My heart was steady, strangely steady. Through the window, A woman sat at a desk, headset on, multiple screens in front of her. On one of them, our house camera feed. "She's been watching us," I whispered. Mike's voice was low. "Want me to handle it?" I shook my head. "No, I'll talk to her." He gave me a look that said, "You've lost it," but I didn't care. I stepped up to the door, knocked once. The typing stopped. A pause. Then, slowly, the door opened. The woman's face, the same one from Tyler's video calls, stared back at me. Only this time it looked wrong. Up close, I could see faint screen reflection lines flickering across her skin, like a projection struggling to hold form. And behind her, in the darkened room, someone else moved. A man, real, breathing, watching. He stepped into view, smiling faintly. "I was wondering when you'd come." My pulse didn't rise. I just met his eyes. "You've made a mistake," I said. His grin widened. "I don't think so." "Oh," I whispered, "you will." The next second, Mike burst in through the back, flashlight blazing, and the woman's image glitched, dissolving into static on the monitors. Only the man remained. He bolted for the side exit, but I was faster. I'd locked it from outside before knocking. He turned, realizing too late that the trap wasn't his anymore. For the first time that night, I smiled. "You thought you were watching me," I said, stepping forward. "But I've been watching you." Outside, sirens began to wail. Not because I'd called them, but because Mike had quietly sent a ping to his old department before we even arrived. And in that moment, for the first time since my husband's death, I felt the old fire again, the part of me that refused to be the victim. But as the sirens grew louder, the man said something that made my blood run cold. "You think this ends with me?" he whispered. "You have no idea who you're really dealing with." Then he smiled, the kind of smile that promised this wasn't over. The man's smirk stayed with her long after the police took him away. Even as the flashing lights faded and the officers packed up the last of the equipment, his words echoed in her mind. "You think this ends with me?" By dawn, the house was quiet again. Tyler sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, silent. He hadn't said a word since the arrest. His eyes were red, not from tears, but from something deeper. Guilt, confusion, maybe both. Karen poured herself coffee, though her hands still trembled. Mike had stayed behind for a bit, helping the police pull files from the hacker's laptop. They found hundreds of stolen identities, private chats, and bank information, all connected to fake online relationships. But something didn't sit right. When Mike returned from his car with a flash drive, he looked uneasy. "Karen," he said, "there's something you need to see." He plugged it into her computer. Dozens of folders appeared. Each was named after a city. One stood out, Lugby, the same city she lived in. Inside was a single file, Karen_final.docx. Her breath caught. Mike opened it carefully. It wasn't a document. It was a transcript, lines of conversation, camera timestamps, even private text messages between her and her son. Everything they'd said inside their home. "How long has this been going on?" she whispered. Mike's jaw tightened. "At least 3 months, maybe more. They had inside access to your Wi-Fi, your security cams, even your phone." She swallowed hard. "They knew about my husband." He hesitated. "Karen, they referenced his death, and some case files from years back. Someone wanted you watched." Her knees nearly gave out. This wasn't random. This wasn't just about her son being scammed. This was personal. Tyler's voice broke the silence. "Mom, that guy, he said he knew Dad." She turned sharply. "What?" He said Dad owed him something. He didn't explain, just said he was collecting. Mike exchanged a quick glance with her. "Your husband ever mention anything? Work that wasn't official?" Karen stared at the wall. Fragments of memory flickered. Late-night calls, encrypted drives, the way he used to triple-check the locks before bed. He'd told her it was habit. Maybe it wasn't. Her phone buzzed suddenly. A new email notification. Subject: You shouldn't have interfered. From unknown@tracevoid.net. Attached was a photo, taken just moments ago, of her standing in front of her own kitchen window. Mike lunged for the laptop. They're still watching. Karen forced herself to breathe. No, she said slowly, they're not watching. They're testing me. He looked at her, confused. She closed the laptop. If they wanted me gone, they'd have done it. They want me scared. Mike frowned. You're saying this is psychological. She nodded. They think they can break me the way they broke him. Tyler looked up, his voice cracking. What are you talking about? Karen looked at her son. Really looked, and something hardened inside her. This started long before your mistake, Tyler. You were just the bait. Outside, a car door slammed. Both of them turned toward the window. Mike went for his gun, whispering, "Stay back." But Karen didn't move. She stepped closer to the window, her voice low but steady. "It's not over," she murmured. "It's just beginning." The silhouette outside moved toward the porch, calm, deliberate, and for a second, under the morning light, she could have sworn she recognized the figure, someone she thought she'd buried in her past. Karen's pulse thudded in her ears as the shadow moved closer to the porch. For a moment, she froze, every instinct screaming to hide, but something stronger pushed her forward. She needed to know. When she opened the door, the figure paused under the dim porch light. "Karen," the man said softly. Her breath hitched. No, it was Victor Hale, her husband's old partner from the cybersecurity firm, the one who'd vanished after her husband's funeral without a word. His face was thinner now, his eyes carrying that sleepless, haunted look of a man who knew too much. Mike tensed beside her. "You have 10 seconds to explain why you're here." Victor raised his hands. "If you want your family to survive this, you'll want to hear me out." Karen's heart sank. "What are you talking about? Survive what?" Victor looked past her into the house. "They're not after your money, Karen. They're after his files." She frowned. "Files? My husband worked in cybersecurity, not just cybersecurity," Victor interrupted. "He was part of an internal task force that exposed a private intelligence group, the kind that runs deep web surveillance contracts off the books. He found proof they were selling personal data to the black market." Karen's blood ran cold. "You're saying he was targeted?" Victor nodded. "He downloaded evidence onto an encrypted drive before he died. The same drive you're using right now." Her mind flashed back to the scratched USB. The one from his drawer. "That's not a trace tool," Victor said, his voice grim. "It's a digital key. And whoever's after you, they know it's still active." Mike swore under his breath. "You mean this whole thing, the scam, the hacker, the fake girlfriend, all of it was to get close enough to that drive?" Victor nodded once. "They knew the only person your husband trusted with his devices was you. They planned to manipulate your son to make you open it." Karen felt her knees weaken. Every moment of guilt, every sleepless night blaming herself for Tyler's choices, it had all been orchestrated. Tyler's voice cracked from behind. "So, I was just a pawn." Karen turned to him. "No, you were their entry point, but you're not a victim anymore. You're my reason to end this." Victor pulled a small black case from his pocket and set it on the table. "Inside is a burner laptop. You'll need it to finish what your husband started. Decrypt the data and expose them. Once you do, every one of them becomes vulnerable." Karen stared at it, Then at the dark window, her reflection fractured by the glass. "If I open this," she whispered, "they'll come for me." Victor's expression hardened. "They already are." A faint vibration hummed from her phone again. A new message appeared. Unknown sender. "You're digging in the wrong grave, Mrs. Hale." Attached was a time-stamped photo of Victor walking up her driveway 10 minutes ago, taken from a high angle. Mike looked at the screen and cursed. "They're watching from above. Drone feed, probably. We need to move now." But Karen didn't move. She was staring at the image, not the drone, not the text, but the faint reflection on the glass door behind Victor in the photo. A second man, standing just out of sight. She whispered, "He's not alone." Mike spun toward the back door, gun drawn. The house fell into silence again, the kind that hums right before something breaks. Then the back window shattered. Karen ducked, pulling Tyler down with her. The case hit the floor, sliding under the table as glass sprayed across the kitchen tiles. Victor shouted, "Get the drive! Now!" Karen reached under the table, fingers brushing the cold metal casing of the USB. But before she could grab it, a boot stepped through the glass behind her. A man's voice, calm, confident, and terrifyingly familiar, said, "You should have left the past buried, Karen." Her breath stopped. She knew that voice. It belonged to someone she had once trusted, someone who had stood beside her husband every day before he died. Karen turned slowly, the sound of her pulse louder than the crunch of glass beneath her knees. The man stepped into the light, older but unmistakable. David, her husband's best friend, the godfather to her son, the man who had delivered her husband's eulogy with trembling hands and tears that now felt rehearsed. He gave a slight smile that never reached his eyes. "It's been a long time, Karen." Mike raised his weapon, but David didn't flinch. He looked almost pitying. "You're not going to shoot me. Not in front of her." Karen's throat tightened. "You were at my house the day after the funeral. You said you'd help me go through his office." "I did," David said, his voice calm, steady, too steady. "I took what I needed. But apparently, your husband left one more surprise I didn't account for." Victor stepped forward. "You sold him out, didn't you?" David sighed, almost regretful. He was going to ruin everything. "Do you have any idea what we built? The contracts, the networks, the clients who paid millions for what we could access." Karen's voice cracked. "You killed him." David's gaze softened, as if he wanted her to believe otherwise. "No, Karen. He killed himself when he decided to betray us. I just made sure his work didn't go to waste." The air left her lungs. She wanted to scream, but her voice wouldn't come. She saw flashes, her husband's last night alive, the hurried phone call, the broken lock on the office door, the message that had never sent, "If anything happens to me, it's not an accident." Mike stepped between them. "You're confessing to conspiracy, murder, cybercrime." David cut him off with a smirk. "You think any of that matters now? The people behind me, the ones your husband crossed, they own everything you rely on. You think you can expose them with a few files." He turned to Karen. "You should have stayed quiet. You and your boy could have had a peaceful life. Instead, you dug into something that doesn't forgive." Karen met his stare, her fear beginning to fade, replaced by something colder, sharper. "You made one mistake," she said quietly. David tilted his head. "And what's that?" She took a step closer. "You underestimated what my husband taught me." Her hand darted behind the counter. She slammed her thumb onto a small remote, the one she'd found earlier in his locked drawer, marked only with a faint X. The laptop on the table beeped, screen flickering. Files decrypted automatically, lines of data flashing faster than any of them could read. Victor's eyes widened. Karen, what did you just do? She didn't look away from David. I finished what he started. A feint where outside grew louder, the sound of engines. David turned to the window, panic flickering for the first time. You didn't. Every encrypted drive he built had a live trace backup, Karen said. You wanted control of the data? Now everyone has it. Outside, police sirens blared, not local but federal. Black SUVs screeched to a halt across the street. David lunged toward her, shouting, You don't understand who you're dealing with. Mike fired once. The bullet hit the wall inches from David's arm, enough to stop him cold. Karen stared at him, trembling but unbroken. Neither do you. As agents swarmed in, Victor grabbed her shoulder. You just exposed something massive, but this isn't over. They'll come after what's left, the backups, the contacts. Karen's eyes moved to her son, who was watching from the corner, pale but steady. Then they'll have to go through both of us. Outside, the flashing lights painted the night red and blue. But behind the chaos, Karen could see the faint reflection of another figure across the street. A woman, standing still in the shadows. Amber, watching and smiling. The wind bit against Karen's face as she stepped out of the house, the flashing sirens fading behind her. Agents moved like shadows, collecting evidence, barking orders. But all she saw was Amber, standing across the street beneath a flickering streetlight, calm, untouched by the chaos. Their eyes met. Amber smiled faintly and mouthed, We'll talk soon. Then, like smoke, she turned and vanished into the night. Karen's breath caught. She's still out there. Victor followed her gaze. Who? The girl from the house. Karen nodded slowly. She wasn't running. She was watching. By morning, Karen sat in a sterile federal office, the hum of fluorescent lights above her. A large screen on the wall showed cascading code, the decrypted files her husband had hidden. An agent leaned forward. Mrs. Harlan, your husband was part of a network designed to sell government-grade surveillance tech to private buyers. We thought it was dismantled 3 years ago. Karen's voice was flat. It wasn't. He tried to stop them. That's why he died. The agent hesitated, then turned the screen. A new file opened, labeled Project Seraph. Karen's chest tightened. It was the same name she'd seen on one of her husband's encrypted drives. Inside were documents, payments, identities, offshore accounts, all leading to one central contact. Amber Cross. Her photo appeared on screen. Younger, polished, confident. But this wasn't the lost girl who'd shown up at her door. This was someone else. Someone in control. Victor frowned. Wait, she's not just an alias. Karen shook her head. No, she's the inheritor. Of what? Karen's eyes didn't move from the screen. Of everything my husband tried to bury. 2 days later, Karen drove alone down a rain-slicked highway. Every wiper stroke revealed fragments of memory. Her husband whispering on late calls, locking drawers, saying, If they ever reach you, trust no one. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Amber's voice was soft, almost gentle. You've made a mess, Karen. Karen tightened her grip on the wheel. And you've built a kingdom on the ashes of my husband's work. Amber chuckled. Oh, please. Your husband didn't destroy the system. He created it. He was brilliant, but afraid. I'm just continuing his legacy. Karen's pulse spiked. You killed him. No. Fear killed him. You'd be surprised how much he confessed before he died. How much he begged for you and your son to be spared. Karen's knuckles whitened. What do you want? Amber paused. Then her tone changed, darker. I want what he promised me. The key. Karen froze. What key? You'll find it soon enough. It's been right under your nose since the night he died. The call ended. Karen stared at the empty road ahead, the words echoing in her head. The key right under your nose. She remembered the music box her husband had given their son on his 10th birthday, the one that hadn't played since his death. Her heart stopped. She pressed the accelerator. Back home, she pulled the box from her son's shelf. Dust covered the lid, the tiny ballerina frozen mid-spin. She turned it upside down, nothing. Then she heard it, a faint click, a hidden latch. Inside, wrapped in faded cloth, was a small silver drive engraved with the initials DH. Karen whispered, David Harlan. Victor stepped into the room behind her. Is that? She nodded. The key. He looked uneasy. You know what this means, right? Every name, every account, every buyer connected to Project Seraph. It's all on that drive. But if Amber knows it exists... Karen closed the box gently. Then she's already coming for it. Outside, a car engine roared to life somewhere down the street. Victor moved to the window. We have to go. Now. Karen didn't move. She stared at the drive, the reflection of her trembling hand in its metallic surface. Her husband's voice echoed faintly in her memory. If they find the key, it ends everything. She whispered, almost to herself, maybe it's time it does. The night was unnaturally still, the kind of stillness that made Karen's skin prickle. She sat by the window, the silver drive clenched in her palm. Every creak in the floor, every hum of the refrigerator felt louder, sharper, closer. Victor paced behind her. We should leave now. You saw what she's capable of. Karen didn't look up. Running won't change what's on this drive. It might keep you alive. She turned toward him, eyes cold. You think survival is enough? I've spent years surviving lies. Victor exhaled and rubbed his temples. Karen, she's not bluffing. Amber's got people. Tech mercenaries, ex-operatives. The moment she tracks the signal, we're done. Karen glanced at the drive, remembering Amber's voice. He promised me the key. Her husband's last words had been a whisper she never understood. Forgive me if they ever find out. Now, she finally understood what he meant. The drive wasn't just data. It was evidence. And a confession. The lights flickered. Victor froze. Power cut. No, Karen's voice dropped to a whisper. She's here. A second later, the sound of tires screeched outside. Headlights sliced through the curtains. 3 black SUVs. Doors slamming in unison. Victor darted toward the kitchen. Back door. Karen didn't move. She opened the laptop, inserting the drive. The screen lit up with encrypted files. Thousands of names, offshore transactions, hidden assets. And then a folder labeled for Karen. She clicked. A video file opened. Her husband's face appeared, recorded years before, pale, exhausted, haunted. Karen, if you're watching this, it means I failed. His voice trembled. They'll come for the drive for you, but you have to understand. I didn't create Project Seraph for greed. I built it to expose them. Amber, she was supposed to help me. Karen's breath caught. She was just a student back then. Brilliant, ambitious, idealistic. But when she saw the money, she took everything. She sold me out. The night I died, she was there. The video glitched, his final words faint and broken. Don't let her rewrite the story. Karen's hand trembled over the keyboard. The truth seared through her like fire. Amber hadn't killed her husband for power. She'd done it to erase the proof of her betrayal. Victor's shout broke the trance. Karen, move. Glass shattered as flashbangs burst through the windows. Karen dove to the floor, clutching the laptop. The room filled with smoke and shouting. Victor pulled her toward the back hallway, gunfire cracking through the air. "We have to destroy it." Karen shouted back, no. He wanted the truth seen. They stumbled into the basement, the walls shaking as boots thundered above. Victor grabbed a lighter from his jacket, flicking it open. "If she gets it, the whole world burns." Karen's eyes blazed. "And if we destroy it, he dies a liar." A sudden voice echoed from the shadows, calm, composed. Amber stepped out from behind the furnace, a pistol leveled at them. "He was a liar." Karen froze. "You don't know what he was." Amber's smile was chilling. "Oh, I know. He begged for me to stop him. He said the world wasn't ready for the truth. And maybe he was right." She raised the gun. "Give me the drive, Karen. Let's end this." Karen slowly held it out, then flicked the lighter from Victor's hand and pressed it against the plastic casing. The flames hissed, the metal glowing red. Amber's eyes widened. "Don't!" Karen's voice cut through the chaos. "You don't get to decide what dies with him." She dropped the burning drive into a bucket of gasoline used for the generator. A deafening whoosh erupted, fire tearing through the basement. Amber screamed, diving back as Victor shielded Karen from the heat. They crashed through the storm door into the yard as the basement exploded behind them. Karen rolled onto the grass, coughing, watching the flames devour everything. Amber stood silhouetted in the firelight, her face twisted with fury, but her voice was eerily calm. "You think you won? You just burned your only proof. Now no one will ever know who he really was." Karen's reply was barely a whisper. "I already do." Amber smirked, then turned and disappeared into the smoke. As sirens wailed in the distance, Victor knelt beside Karen. "It's over." Karen shook her head slowly, staring into the flames. "No, Victor. It's just the part they'll never see." Her voice trembled, not with fear, but resolve. "He built this for truth. I'll rebuild it for justice." The fire reflected in her eyes, not destruction, but rebirth. The fire had stopped by dawn, but the smoke still lingered, a gray ghost rising above the ruins of Karen's home. The world she'd known was gone, swallowed in flames, and yet she'd never felt more awake. Victor stood beside her, jacket torn, eyes scanning the horizon where flashing lights approached. "When the authorities get here, what are you going to tell them?" Karen watched the smoke drift toward the sunrise. "The truth," she said softly. "At least the part one can live with." He frowned. "And the rest?" She looked at him then, not with fear, but with something steadier. "Some truths aren't spoken. They're carried." Victor opened his mouth to reply, but the faint buzz of a phone in his pocket cut through the silence. He pulled it out. Unknown number. No signal name. Just one word on the screen. Still alive. Karen's heart clenched. "Amber." Victor swore under his breath. "She made it out." Karen's voice was calm, almost resigned. "Good." He stared at her. "Good. She's proof this isn't over. My husband wanted to expose them. I'll finish what he started. But I can't do that if I'm chasing ghosts." She started walking toward the burnt remains of the house. Amid the ashes, she knelt down and brushed away a piece of melted metal, part of the drive casing, warped and blackened. Beneath it, something glimmered faintly, a hidden chip unburnt. Victor's eyes widened. That shouldn't have survived. Karen turned the chip in her palm, the faint light reflecting in her eyes. "Neither should I." A week later, in a quiet motel off Route 12, Karen sat before a small desk. A new laptop hummed beside her. She slid the surviving chip into a reader, the screen flickering to life. For a moment, nothing happened. Then folders appeared. Dozens of files. Seraph archives recovered. Her husband's face appeared again, fragmented, glitching, but his final words came through clearly this time. If she's still alive, she'll come for it again. Don't fight her the way I did. Expose her the way she fears most in the light. Karen's eyes filled with tears. I will, she whispered. She uploaded the first file to a hidden cloud link, labeling it simply, "The Truth About Seraph." Across town, in a penthouse wrapped in glass and silence, Amber watched the upload notification appear on her screen. Her expression didn't change. Only her hand tightened around her wine glass. She learned well, she murmured. Then, after a pause, too well. She turned off the screen, her reflection staring back, confident, composed, but shadowed by something colder. Outside, thunder rumbled. Back in the motel, Karen shut the laptop and sat in the quiet. The storm outside tapped gently on the windows. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her husband's wedding band, the one she'd found in the ashes. Turning it over, she saw something she hadn't noticed before, an engraving inside the band. For truth, even if it burns. A single tear slipped down her cheek, but she smiled through it. He meant every word, she whispered. Victor knocked on the door, voice low. You ready? Karen slipped the ring onto her finger, grabbed the laptop bag and nodded. Yeah, it's time. As they stepped into the rain, she looked back once more at the motel, a quiet symbol of survival, of endings and beginnings. The storm rolled overhead. Her voice broke the silence one last time, calm, reflective, certain. The fire didn't destroy everything. It just showed me what was real. And as thunder echoed in the distance, she walked into the rain, not as a victim, not as a widow, but as the keeper of truth,